The people have been asking, where do I stand politically? Well, let me explain to you what centrism is. So, here's a political chart. As you can see at the top of the chart, you have authoritarian politics, stuff like Nazis and communists. And then at the bottom of the chart, you have anarchists. So on the bottom left, you'll have anarcho-communism. On the bottom right, you'll have anarcho-capitalism. And here in the center, you have the Overton window. The Overton window is basically where the centrists hang out. These are people with moderate views who don't really find themselves aligned with one camp or the other. Sometimes they'll have opposing views on political issues, maybe they'll have a mix from different parties, or maybe they'll just have moderate views in general. As you can probably tell, centrists are slime who stand for nothing and have no convictions. That's why I'm an anti-centrist. You see, anti-centrists occupy every extreme of the political spectrum simultaneously. Some people say that means I hold fundamentally incompatible views. I say, send those dissenters to the gulag, and also the gas chambers, and also neither of those things because I don't believe in government. Where I stand politically. Abortion. I'm actually both anti-choice and anti-life. I believe all women should have abortions always. Climate change. I believe climate change is real and man-made. However, I also believe that the earth is flat and all the water is just gonna pour over the side anyway, so we'll be fine. Gay marriage. As an extreme leftist, I do not believe in concepts like gender. So if you think about it, all marriage is gay marriage. And as a right-winger, this disgusts me, so all marriage should be banned. The military. If you ask me right now, we as a society are weak. We need a strong military ruler to take control of our country. Of course, only so that the people at the bottom of his fascist dictatorship could understand their place in the world and lead a just workers' revolt. Of course, that workers' revolt would eventually descend into complete anarchy, which is how we get the anarcho-communist utopia. And then eventually people are going to start bartering for goods and services, and that's how we get the anarcho-capitalist utopia, which will make them so weak due to years of complacency and success that the military takeover no one will see coming, and we can start the process again. This is really the only way to get rid of the centrist once and for all. The mainstream media, I don't like it. Wow, turns out everybody agrees on that. The Purge. Yeah, it could work. Free speech. As a leftist, I'm deeply aware of the fact that the term free speech is kind of a misnomer. Some people don't have access to the same kinds of speech that other people do. As an anarcho-capitalist, I believe that everybody should have access to free speech, provided they can afford it. And we should probably make it like 50% off speech so we can get some revenue coming in. Vaccinations. I've done my research by reading some comments on a forum, and the results are undeniable. Vaccines cause autism. And the power to give anyone autism on demand is a powerful tool that should be used by the state. And besides, if everybody has autism, does anybody really have autism? Separation of church and state. It's clear to me that religion should have no place in politics. Unless, of course, it is the religion of Thum, Dark Lord of the Seas. If we can properly integrate the will of Thum into our state, then I see no reason why we shouldn't all follow his blubbery will. Healthcare. It's called healthcare, and yet it only cares for the sick? This kind of doublespeak is why our government is literally 1984. I say, we make healthcare do what it says and only care for the healthy. Immigration. The sedentary lifestyle is making us fat, sick, and lazy. I propose mandatory immigration to keep us all on our feet. We remove all border security, but you can't stay anywhere for longer than a week. Think of the fun! Election meddling. It is a tragedy that for the last 50 years, every single right-wing president that's ever been elected has been 100% because of Russia. However, what people don't seem to understand is that Israel is also meddling with our elections, and they're left-wing, so it evens out. Why do you have so many opposing views? Well, it's okay to have opposing views. It shows that you thought about each individual issue. I mean, just because there doesn't exist a party that exactly aligns with your beliefs doesn't mean that it's not okay to have the beliefs that you have. It's easy to fall into a group mentality and just believe what everybody else believes because there's a name for it. There's a convenient basket of ideas you can get all your ideology from. Diversity of thought is important. It's more important than falling into a group. It's important that you think for yourself about each individual issue and come to your own individual conclusions about each issue. That's why I have political beliefs that don't necessarily align with any specific group. It's because it's okay for one mind to contain multitudes. Oh, hold on. No, actually, it's because I'm schizophrenic and forgot to take my medication this morning. Whoops. All better. Vote Bernie Sanders in 2020. It's no secret that the world needs to change. And it needs to change now. The status quo has gone on for too long, and if we don't alter our course quickly, we could be headed towards disaster. And when we need radical change, it's the people sitting on their hands doing nothing that prevent change the most. That's right. I'm talking about the centrists. As a radical anti-centrist, I understand how moderates have been undermining our society for years. Us extremists have to do all the work pushing and pulling the Overton window. Meanwhile, the centrists just have to tiptoe left and right whenever it suits them. What this has resulted in is a political system that doesn't change. We move back and forth, left and right, and we never get anywhere. And now that we actually need radical change, the people preserving the status quo just aren't helping. Too many people aren't picking a side. Too many people are politically sitting on a fence. We don't have much time. I urge you, go up to those fence sitters and burn the fence down.
Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Don't worry about the noise, they don't scream that loud. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. The moderates scream moderately loud.
We gotta throw a brick through the Overton window. If all the extremists stopped fighting each other and started fighting the centrists, we could actually get rid of them all in a plan I'm calling the moderate solution. Now listen, I'm not saying we should kill all centrists. I'm saying we should start killing the centrists. Basically, all you have to do is find someone and ask them a political question. If they give you a wishy-washy non-answer, then that's your cue to kill them. Now some of you might be thinking, oh, that sounds an awful lot like genocide. And some of you might be thinking, oh, that sounds an awful lot like genocide. Don't worry, it's not genocide. Think of it as a much more palatable politicide, or more specifically in a term I've created, centricide. Here's the genius part. Once the centrists start dying off, more and more of them will become politically polarized until all the centrists have either become extremists or have been killed. Once there are no centrists left, there will be a black hole where the Overton window used to be. That's when all of the extremists will get sucked into that window like a vacuum. This marks phase 2 of the plan, where all of the extremists fight each other until only one prevailing ideology remains. Then we can finally stop culture warring and solve big issues like climate change by dismantling capitalism, or letting the free market loose on the issue, or dividing ourselves into groups and hoping the groups that we don't like die first. Now some people might say that differences in opinion are valuable and we shouldn't be trying to make everybody believe the same thing. That we shouldn't be trying to convert everybody into one homogeneous ideology, and that conflicts between ideologies are valuable and is what makes human society and humans in general so interesting. Those people are centrists. And we're gonna fucking kill them.
Stop being dense. Some wisdom I'll dispense. I'll tell you what I mean. Go right up to the fence sitters and douse them in gasoline. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. The moderates can't suck my dick. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Pick a side, you fucking prick. I'm tired of fighting this culture war. What the fuck are we fighting for? The centrist always wins, so let's just go and fucking murder him. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Take that wishy-washy shit and burn it to the ground. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Take that wishy-washy shit and burn it to the ground. We fight to make the world brighter. I've fought for so long and I'm not a fighter. None of us win, then we all lose. So let's make these motherfuckers choose. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Don't worry about the noise, they don't scream that loud. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. The moderates scream moderately loud. The moderates scream moderately loud.
Throughout history, there have been many different kinds of theories. Theories about the laws of nature, the breadth of the universe, the limits of physics. All of these theories, of course, pale in comparison to the laws of politics. Yes, Political theories. How people organize themselves politically and what conclusions you can draw based off of those organizations. As a renowned political scientist and anti-centrism advocate, I'm here to tell you why all of those theories are wrong and I'm right. Horseshoe theory. Horseshoe theory is one of the most popular political interpretations ever. The theory states that the further politically left or politically right you go, the more and more the extremes of both sides will start to resemble each other. The model was created when most people's perception of politics was just left-wing versus right-wing. As a result, it's a little overly simplistic. And you can kind of tell that the guy who made it was just some filthy centrist who looked at the Nazis and the communists and they were like, I can't tell the difference! But if you look at the positions of economic right-wing fascism and communism on a political spectrum, it does kind of resemble a horseshoe. So what the guy is really getting at is the farther left and the farther right you go, the more statist you become? And that's what makes them resemble each other because they're more statist? Not a very good political theory. Here's what I recommend instead. Fishhook theory. Fishhook theory is another take on the one-dimensional political spectrum. It states that the political spectrum is a lot more like a fishhook like this than a horseshoe. This model states that extreme right-wing fascists are actually closer to centrists than they are your average right-winger. The logic goes that centrists don't have much to lose from extreme fascism taking over the country, and that centrists are in general rather easily swayed by fascists. Because centrists tend not to really stand for anything, they get pulled in the direction of fascism, while Republicans, for example, at least stand for something and have sort of Christian values that would prevent them from wanting to genocide people. Obviously, this is a ridiculous theory, and I apologize to the respectable members of my audience. Fascists, I would never lump you in with those filthy, filthy centrists. Obviously, the fishhook theory is terrible. Here's what I recommend instead. Hourglass theory. Oh boy, now we get to go 2D. So basically, the idea of this theory is that the further left wing you go, or the further right wing you go, the more likely you are to be pulled towards a extreme statist ideology or a extreme libertarian ideology. The reason for this is because it's unlikely that you're extremely left wing but have no opinion about the government. And the same thing if you're extremely right-wing. This theory is kind of trying to explain why you'll see a lot of people here, 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 and here on the political spectrum, but not as many people here, 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 and here. Again, terrible theory. Here's my suggestion instead. Donut theory. Donut theory is an extension of hourglass theory and is well respected in the political circle. It's basically the logical extension of hourglass theory in the sense that everything outside the center is equally crazy. That essentially everybody who's not a centrist can be kind of lumped into this one big group called extremists. Essentially, everything that the donut touches has something in common. So radicalization, dissatisfaction with the status quo, violence, and extremism. As you can probably tell by now, most political theories are made by idiot political scientists who have no idea that we need to eliminate the sender. This is why I propose a revolutionary new theory I call reverse donut theory. So take a donut and put it on a graph, and then instead of calling everything the donut touches crazy, you just cut out the center, and that's it. So you take a donut and you put it on the political compass, and you say, okay, well, everything it touches is different, and the little hole in the center, that's the people who are ideologically similar, because they're all moderate people who have stuck their head in the sand and refuse to acknowledge that the world needs to change at all. They benefit from the status quo, so they don't want to change it. They probably think horseshoe theory is a real thing. They probably don't even watch YouTube, and the worst thing is, they're probably boomers. Donut theory says that the people on the edges are the crazy ones. Reverse donut theory says that if you are perceptive to the world and are aware of what's happening to it, then there's no possible way that you can look at everything and say, yeah, this is okay, we don't need to change, without being a little crazy yourself. So many theories, all of them wrong. Here's my theory I'll explain through song. Take a donut and put it on a chart. Cut out the middle, make a work of art. Fuck donuts, I don't like the taste. Fuck donuts, they're losing the race. Donut theory is a pile of shit. Join together around the center and disprove it. All these political theories say extremists are the same. All these political theories are extremely smooth-brained. Let's prove all these centrist motherfuckers wrong and sing in unison this exact song. Fuck donuts, right through the hole. Fuck donuts, imparting in whole. Fuck donuts, cause if you eat them all day, fuck donuts, then you'll just waste away. Stop sitting on your ass eating donuts all day. Stop smoking grass acting like it's okay. Stop acting like the extremists are the ones that are crazed when you're the one whose eyes are glazed. Fuck donuts, and by glazed, fuck donuts, I mean mean honey glaze.
Fuck donuts.
You're filled with chocolates.
Fuck donuts.
And by chocolate, I mean shit.
Donut theory is a pile of shit. Let's join together around the center and disprove it.
Donut theory is a pile of shit. Let's join together around the center and disprove it. It would be an understatement to say that the situation in the Middle East is complicated. I'll be the first to say that I don't know everything that I could about the conflict there. There's a lot to process and a lot of different ways that you can interpret what is happening. The issue is roughly as follows. Someone will mention the Middle East, and then all of a sudden everybody will be yelling about Israel this, Palestine that, and dinner's ruined. It does not seem like there's a likely end to this conflict in sight, which means we're gonna have to keep hearing about this shit for years. Some have proposed a two-state solution, but it doesn't seem likely that a acceptable compromise between the two parties will ever be made. We can all agree that a two-state solution would be nice, but is ultimately unfeasible. And a one-state solution will also never happen. That's why I propose a zero-state solution in which we nuke the Middle East. Think about it like this. How can there be conflict in the Middle East if there is no Middle East? And as an anti-centrist, this excites me because finally the East will have no middle, just a left and a right, as all things should be. Now hold on, I know what you're thinking. Nuke the Middle East? That's a great idea. Why hasn't anybody thought of it before? The sad truth of the matter is that until now, everyone was too dumb. But I'm smart now, and my good idea is good and smart, just like me. Now some Middle Easterners might say that some random Westerner with no knowledge about the Middle East whatsoever isn't going to be able to sit in his room and come up with a solution to a long-standing issue that's plagued the region for millennia. To those Middle Easterners, I say, we're not going to be hearing much from you after the bombs drop. Once the Middle East is nothing but a smoking crater in the ground and everybody in Egypt has mutated a second head on their torso because of all the radiation, then we will finally have reached a perfect solution to the Middle East. For us.
The Middle East is very complicated. There's no need to sit around and debate it. Conflict resolution is so overrated. So let's just go and stop all of this hatred. Nuke the Middle East. 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 Don't take my channel down. Nuke the Middle East. This is parody. Nuke the Middle East. Let's solve this conflict for all time by committing all these war crimes. Nuke the Middle East.
Tune in next time for my solutions to China, North Korea, and Russia. You can probably guess what they are.
Stop being dense. Some wisdom I'll dispense. I'll tell you what I mean. Go right up to the fence and douse it in gasoline. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. The moderates don't do jack shit. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. That'll solve all of this. I'm tired of fighting this culture war. What the fuck are we fighting for? The centrists always win, so let's just go and fucking murder them. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Take that wishy-washy shit and burn it to the ground. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Take that wishy-washy shit and burn it to the ground. We fight to make the world brighter. I fought for so long and I'm not a fighter. If none of us win, then we all lose. So let's make these motherfuckers choose. Burn the fence down before this shit gets any worse. Burn the fence down, replace every car with the hearse. We gotta reestablish our cultural identity and also open all of our borders entirely and also make sure that all of our trade is free and start a communist revolution. It's the solution. Let's burn the fence down, burn the fence down. The moderates can suck my dick. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Pick a side, you fucking prick. Just pick a side, it's time to decide. Time for politicide, I'm not telling a lie. It's time for centricide, it's time to decide. Time for the edges to join, hold hands and cry. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. Don't worry about the noise, they don't scream that loud. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. The moderates scream moderately. Burn the fence down, burn the fence down. The moderates scream moderately loud. The moderates scream moderately loud.
To defeat your enemy, you must first know your enemy. And to know your enemy, you must first know yourself. And to know yourself, you must first find your center.
What kind of centrist are you?
What kind of centrist are you?
What kind of centrist are you?
You and you and you and you.
It pains me to say it, but before we defeat the centrists, we must first know the centrists. What kind of sick, twisted life must someone lead in order to go down a path of neutrality? When the time for Centricide comes, it will do us no good if we're all squabbling over who's a centrist and who isn't. But before we talk about the different kinds of centrism, let's first talk about the different kinds of anti-centrism. The centrist anti-centrist. The centrist anti-centrist only has beef with those in the direct center of the political spectrum. These people have the right idea and are sympathetic towards our movement, but ultimately they have not committed to their ideals enough to be a part of it. This is embarrassing for me to say, but I myself used to be a slightly less radical extremist, not enough to sympathize with the centrists. Of course, that would warrant the gas gulag Molotov nuke, but ultimately, I did kind of see where the anti-centrists that were less extreme than me were coming from, and it is a mistake I will not make again. Moderate anti-centrist. These anti-centrists take issue with people in the dead center of the political spectrum, but also to the center left and the center right of the political spectrum, so basically any moderate. Getting better, but we're still not there yet. Anti-centrist. The archetypal anti-centrist has no patience for anyone even close to the center, and they're the bread and butter of our organization. Radical anti-centrist. These are the people who know what's up and will only accept the most extreme of all political ideologies. These are the leaders of our movement and what everybody should aspire to be. Anti-centrist supreme. These guys won't tolerate anybody who even fits on the political spectrum. The only acceptable ideologies are those that even extremists are like, whoa man, slow down a little. Now for the centrists. Centrists, like tumors, come in many different shapes and sizes. The issue with centrism as a term is that not a lot of people identify with centrism as an ideology, and centrism itself is pretty loosely defined. Not a lot of literature is written about centrists as opposed to their more opinionated counterparts. Now, what a responsible political scientist would do would be to look up the philosophies behind what people call centrism and then do research on those philosophies. However, my political knowledge comes entirely from memes, so we're just going to look at some memes and extrapolate from there. The true centrist. A true centrist finds themselves in the dead center between all political extremes at all times. This is because they've thought about each individual issue and just happened to discover that the answer lies in the middle of the two extremes every single time. Wow, what a coincidence. They die first. The moderate. Moderates have a bunch of different views on different issues, but those views will only range from at maximum center left to center right. Moderates aren't in the dead center of the political spectrum, but they're close, and so they have to go. Just like how being near the middle of a nuclear explosion will still kill you. Alt-centrist. Also known as dirtbag centrists, these are people who will claim that both sides are exactly the same. There is no difference between good and bad. You imbecile. You fucking moron. They're also called horseshoe centrists because they're proponents of horseshoe theory. Keep them away from the Nazbols. Fake centrist. A fake centrist is someone who's clearly left-wing or right-wing, but is pretending to be a centrist for gain of some kind. Maybe they want to influence a political party, or maybe they want to just avoid conflict. The issue with fake centrists is that even though they're not centrists themselves, they're making people become centrists because it gives people ideas, and ultimately, people aren't very good at determining when public figures are saying things that they don't necessarily believe. Radical centrists. Radical centrists support solutions over party lines. They are willing to do whatever it takes to fix broken systems, and it doesn't matter where those solutions lie politically. Unlike most centrists, radical centrists are actually quite extreme. They just don't allow political lines to dictate what they can and can't find as a good solution to a problem. Radical centrists have beliefs and have convictions, and they act on them, and they create real change. It's almost enough to make you not want to centricide them. Almost. Anti-extremists. Anti-extremists fear extremism of all kinds. They don't stand for anything in particular, they only stand against radicalization. Can you imagine basing your entire identity off of being against something? Ridiculous. They try to herd people back into the Overton window like shepherds whose sheep have jumped over the fence. Little do they know that fence is about to be on fire, and once it's on fire, they can't jump back over. Apolitical. These are people who don't want to get involved with politics. When someone brings up a political topic, they just have nothing to say. The question then is, how do we plot an apolitical person onto a political spectrum? The answer is you put them in the dead center because they both have the same effect on politics. Radical apolitical. Political nihilist. The political nihilist does not believe in the political system. Maybe he thinks that the system is rigged against him. Maybe he thinks that he himself will never be able to impact the world. Or maybe he just doesn't believe in democracy. It's not necessarily that the political nihilist doesn't care. It's just that he thinks he can't do anything about it. Unfortunately, being a political nihilist means that he's apolitical. And being apolitical means that he's a centrist. And being a centrist means... well, you know what being a centrist means. Centrist sympathizers. I've saved the centrist sympathizers for last. A centrist sympathizer might not be a centrist themselves, but they might be sympathetic towards people who are apolitical, political nihilists, or centrists. A centrist sympathizer might argue that not everybody has the time to educate themselves about each issue and make informed decisions about each issue, so that they are undecided on certain subjects. They might say that some people are busy making ends meet, or that their goals just don't align with politics. They might say that shaming these people for not having a developed view of politics might just push them into an ideology for the sake of having an ideology. They might ask, do these people really deserve centricide just because they haven't developed their views yet? Do these people really deserve centricide for not taking an interest in politics? Do these people really deserve centricide for not valuing what we value? The answer is yes. Duh. Of course. And you die too.
What kind of centrist are you?
What kind of centrist are you?
What kind of centrist are you?
What kind of centrist
Center
are
left or center right, agreeable or contrarian, never looking for a fight, statist or libertarian. What kind of centrist are you?
you? What kind of centrist are you?
What kind of centrist are you?
You and you and you and you.
A true centrist or a radical? Are you a fake one, just a miser? A moderate or apolitical? Or just a sympathizer? What kind of centrist are you?
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 Tell us all in the comments below so we can know.
So we can know.
So we can know.
So we can know.
Who to kill first.
Political scientists today are all fucking idiots. I mean it. While the people who studied political science go out and study the specific politics of Yemen or some shit, I'm doing God's work by trying to map niche ideologies like 12 people unironically believe onto a political spectrum. While I have been hardened by the growing momentum of this movement, it's important that we all understand each other before we fight side by side along with each other. As a result, we should probably talk about the many different kinds of extremists. But what is political extremism? For the purposes of this video, I'm going to describe 3 axes by which someone can be an extremist in. These are the economic axis, the cultural axis, and the statist axis. You can think of the difference between right and left as proclivity towards hierarchies. The economic far right believes in as little redistribution of wealth as possible in the form of unregulated capitalism, while the economic far left believes in completely equal redistribution of wealth. That's why most far leftists are some variant of communism. Speaking of seizing the means of production, the cultural far right seeks to seize the means of reproduction. The far cultural right is about the preservation of cultures to the extreme. So much preservation, in fact, that it actually regresses back to culture that previously existed. You know, traditional things like family values, cultural customs, and genocide. The far cultural left, on the other hand, believes in the acceleration of all people towards equality at any cost. You can think of the cultural left versus cultural right divide as progressivism versus traditionalism. The governmental axis separates anarchists from totalitarians. Anarchist society has no state, maybe a government, but not a state. In contrast, a totalitarian government is nothing but a state. Totalitarianism includes, at least in practice, fascism and communism. You can tell if an ideology is anarchist based off of whether or not it has anarcho in front of it. This is true. Whenever you add anarcho in front of an ideology, it makes it sound way cooler. Ah, nah, babe. I'm not one of those lame inbred monarchists. I'm one of those cool anarcho-monarchists. That means I'm inbred and I hate the government. Ugh. Alright, now for the ideologies themselves. The word communism describes a lot of far-left ideologies, but all of them are authoritarian, at least in practice. culturally left and economically left. Communism is essentially the ideology of Marxism put into practice. Marxism advocates for the equality of all people, everyone takes what they need and gives what they can, and some of the offshoots include Maoism for China, Marxist-Leninism for Russia, Trotskyism, Stalinism. Communists form the national identity of the anti-centrism organization. They don't play that well with others, so keep them away from the other ideologies. And the sparrows. We need sparrows, guys. Stop killing all the sparrows. Pasadists are a variant of Marxist-Leninism. They believe that the best way to destroy capitalism is with a preemptive nuclear strike that causes the world revolution to happen, in which all people across the globe throw off their chains and revolt against their capitalist oppressors. They also believe in communist aliens, that is to say, that all aliens that could possibly visit Earth must be communists, because otherwise they would never have gotten the technology capable of leaving their home planet to come to Earth, because no capitalist society has ever invented space travel. So they're basically just Marxist-Leninists, but wackier? This is why I've decided to add a fourth spectrum by which we will measure extremism, and that's the wacky spectrum. Hasadism is economically and culturally left, authoritarian, and also very, very wacky. Fascism. Fascism is a culturally far-right ideology that advocates for national rebirth, typically through the use of nationalism. Third positionists often identify themselves as being beyond left and right, like this magnificent comment reveals. I have ascended, Kakarot. I am beyond your simplistic definitions of left and right. I am a Strasserist. In reality, third positionists are just radical cultural right-wingers with the wacky level enhanced quite a bit. You see, once you become far enough right-wing, you run out of wacky right-wing ideologies to incorporate into your own ideology, and then you have to go into the left side looking for wacky ideologies over there to make your ideology more wacky. Eco-fascism is just regular fascism, but they claim to care about the environment more, which is a culturally left thing to do. Strasserism and National Bolshevikism are both just economically left forms of fascism. Anarcho-fascism is just fascism without a state. Nazis were economically center because they did privatize some things, but they also had some socialist policies, which kind of evens them out. Economically center. What fucking cucks. Pick a side, you fucking fence-sitters. The best example of an economically right fascist is Augusto Pinochet. Augusto Pinochet was a Chilean dictator that created an economically right-wing totalitarian regime in Chile. As far as economically and culturally right-wing authoritarians go, Pinochet is the peak. Ha! Those wacky Chileans. Oh, he was installed by the American government? That makes sense too. All of these so-called third positionists are just variations of fascism, and they just sometimes throw in a wacky left-wing ideology to keep things fresh. I can't wait for LGBTQ fascism, where we finally get the LGBTQ ethno-state. Oh, but the Nazis were leftists! I'm gonna take this opportunity to address something that I get a lot, which is that fascists are left-wing. If you believe this, you have been lied to by someone you trust, and I'm not going to try to change your mind on this, because that doesn't happen a lot on the internet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just ask a favor from you. Open a tab, type fascism into that tab, press the enter key, click on the very first link that pops up and read the first sentence there. You'll notice that you are on a Wikipedia page, with the first sentence highlighted being, fascism is a radical right-wing ideology. Okay? Now, I know that Wikipedia is controlled by the Jews. I know. Nothing is real, and there is no consensus on anything, post-truth, etc., etc. But I want you to know that every time you call a fascist left-wing, and this is true, a political scientist blows their fucking brains out. Nazbol. So I mentioned Nazbol earlier, but what is a Nazbol? The alt-center keeps trying to prove something called horseshoe theory, which is essentially that the far left and the far right are exactly the same. This is, of course, bullshit. Nazis and communists are very, very, very fundamentally different ideologies. But then you have Nazi communists running around, and it gets harder to disprove. You can think of a Nazbol as a communist Nazi, because they have the economic policy of the communists, but the cultural policy of the Nazis. The Nazbols are essential to our organization because they bridge the gap between the leftist totalitarians and the rightist totalitarians. National Bolsheviks emerged near World War II in Russia. Strasserism is an ideology very, very, very similar to National Bolshevikism, and you can basically just think of it as a German brand of the same idea. You might think Strasserists and Nazbols are a totalitarian center of some kind, but they're actually, they're economically left, they're culturally right. There is no center about them, so they get a pass. Monarchism. Monarchism is a culturally and economically right-wing system of governance that is also authoritarian. Monarchists believe in monarchy, so they want a king and a queen to rule over them. Monarchists are often accused of being inbred. As someone who comes from a long line of monarchists, me, my mom aunt, and my dad uncle would all disagree with you. Sometimes I get cut and I just keep bleeding and I don't know why. Inbreeding. More like inbleeding. Seriously, I'm gonna die. Transhumanists. Transhumanists just want robot arms. It's not really political. They just want robot arms. I'm not sure why they're on this list. Anarcho-capitalists. Anarcho-capitalists, also called ANCAPs, are where we get our money sense from. Anarcho-capitalists believe that capitalism, not the state, should run the world. Anarcho-capitalists are clearly economically far right. They believe that unregulated capitalism is the way to go, and to do this they believe in an abolishment of the state, so they're clearly anarchists. But where are they culturally? Well, you would think that this stereotypical anarcho-capitalist would not care if someone was gay or bi or trans as long as they made money. Anything that makes money is good for the anarcho-capitalist and everything else is put aside. But a lot of anarcho-capitalists actually care very deeply about things like the family unit and, restricting abortion, that kind of stuff. So culturally right things. This is because anarcho-capitalists are what I would call culturally variable. That is to say, the label ANCAP describes governmental positions and economic positions, but not cultural positions. So you could have culturally left ANCAPs and culturally right ANCAPs. Anarcho-fascism. Aha, you thought we were done with fascism. Nope, there's more brands. Anarcho-fascism believes that humanity should organize itself into ethnic groups in a stateless society. Anarcho-fascists are fascists, so they're, you guessed it, culturally far right. They're also clearly anarchists, but then they're economically variable. So let's say there was someone called Mefin Stolinu, who claimed to be an anarcho-capitalist, so he's a anarchist who's economically right, but then he also says he cares very deeply about stuff like, restricting abortion and, the family unit is very important and, we should get all these minorities out of our country. Well, then, that guy is, I would say, more of an anarcho-fascist that is economically right-wing than an anarcho-capitalist. Or if you wanted to call him an anarcho-capitalist, I guess you could just call him a culturally far-right anarcho-capitalist. But that's just essentially the terms culturally far-right anarcho-capitalist and economically far-right anarcho-fascist, those are interchangeable terms. They mean the same thing. You're an anarchist, you're culturally far-right, and you're economically far-right. So that's where Mefin Stolinu would be in this hypothetical situation. Again, the reason you don't see the distinction in these ideologies very much is because these ideologies are very, very niche already. But why have a niche ideology when you can have an ideology so fucking niche that the only thing that pops up when you Google it is you explaining the ideology? Nice. Anarcho-communism. Anarcho-communists are our first variant of leftist anarchism. They are communists, but minus the state. When you hear someone refer to anarchists, they're typically referring to these guys. Anarcho-communists are the unifying members of our organization that will make sure everybody gets along. Just keep them away from the fascists. You'll often see anarcho-communists, punching a fascist in the face. And you might say, well, that's not very anarcho of you, brother. You're supposed to let people do whatever you want because you're an anarchist. And an anarcho-communist would say, well, I want to punch this Nazi in the face, and as a result, I'm going to do it. They wouldn't support a state silencing that Nazi, but then they would support, themselves of their own free volition, gathering up some of their friends and punching Nazis in the face. We've talked about the main kinds of anarchist ideologies, so now let's talk about the lesser-known anarchist ideologies in ascending order of wackiness. Queer anarchism. It's anarchism, but it's queer. There's also anarcho-feminism. You may ask why queer anarchism and anarcho-feminism don't just team up. But the answer for that is because why have one niche ideology when you can have two even nicher ideologies? Anarcho-pacifism. Anarcho-pacifists believe in dismantling the state non-violently. Good luck. The anarcho-pacifist was born when he saw a fellow anarchist throw a Molotov through a bank window, and he was like, "Oh, well, you know, I mean, why do we got to do that? Can we just ask the banks to go away? Ooh, I'm not confrontational." I mean, what? You want to affect social change through peace and discourse and law? Grab a Molotov, you cuck. Anarcho-primitivist. The anarcho-primitivist, also called the Anprim, believes in a return to a state of being that was before technology existed. So depending on what kind of Anprim you're talking to, this is either before the dawn of, the Industrial Revolution, or maybe even before things like farming. You may ask, how are we going to feed 7 billion people with no technology whatsoever? The answer is, we're not. They're going to starve to death. In this way, anarcho-primitivism would cause more deaths than any other ideology on this list. But at least they're not centrists. Anarcho-transhumanism. They just want robot limbs, and who can blame them? Everyone wants robot limbs. They've decided to attach their ideology to anarchism because they think anarchism will get them robot limbs faster, and honestly, more power to them and their robot limbs. Anarcho-monarchism. Anarcho-monarchism is... Wait, what the fuck? Anarcho-monarchism wants a king or a queen to rule over an anarchist society. So the role of the king or the queen would be just only to crush whatever state starts to emerge. So the only purpose of the state is to crush the state. Do you think the human mind was a mistake? Anarcho-Poseidism. We're reaching wacky levels that shouldn't even be possible. Now, you may notice that all of these ideologies are wildly different. Doubters of the anti-centrism movement will claim that all of us extremists are fundamentally too different to work together for a common goal. But the recent mobilization of the anti-centrism community has proven the opposite. We are all extremists. We are all dreamers. We are all dissatisfied with the status quo, and we all want change. We want to redistribute the means of genocide evenly across all peoples. We want to seize the means of reproduction and give it to undocumented immigrants. I will be the totalitarian leader you crave to lead you into an anarchist utopia. I want the transhumanists to build us robot arms as the anarcho-pacifists look on in horror and awe. I want the monarchists to marry their sisters as the Poseidists start nuclear war. I want the communists to seize the means of production and then the anarcho-primitivists to throw the means of production away and have everybody starve. Soon, abortion will only be legal for centrists, and mandatory too, so we don't have any more of them. As a radical leftist, we need to put our differences aside and work together towards a common goal, and as a radical rightist, that common goal should be killing groups of people. Stay vigilant, my brothers, sisters, and everything in between. The non-binary state will be glorious. We will make sex changes mandatory for TERFs. We will sell swerfs into profitable sex slavery for our ANCAP brethren. We will nuke the Middle East. We will enact the left no state. Because I don't care how the world changes, I just want it to change. Every day our movement grows in strength. Every day the winds of change lick at the fire around the fence. And every day that fire grows. Soon the fence will be ashes. Soon the fence sitters will be dust. Because remember, if it's extreme, it's on our team. Now before I begin, I want to address my name. A lot of you have been wondering how to pronounce it. Well, my name is actually very difficult to pronounce in regular human tongue, so however you want to pronounce my name is okay. You can pronounce my name however you want. Just whatever you do, don't call me J-Reg. J-Reg is this guy. He makes unironic gaming content. I once left this comment on one of his videos asking how to delete his channel, and he just responded, "What?" Like he didn't even get it? Whether this man knows it or not, he is my arch nemesis. Today, there is no medium more effective for communication, more potent for propaganda, more likely to change the hearts and minds of the people than the meme. You see, my vast and unquestionable political knowledge doesn't come from scholarly articles or textbooks. No, my political knowledge comes entirely from memes. And look where that got me. Now, I'm the charismatic leader of a successful political movement, and I turned out just fine. Let's talk about killing centrists. Talented meme creators are already spreading the seeds of propaganda across the planet. Like any great movement, anti-centrism has some great memes, so I'm going to show them off for you today. Because if we can seize the memes of production, we can seize everything else. Also, because I feel like a real YouTuber now, and I want to just pause for a video and be thankful for the community I have. We're gonna start off with an old classic, anti-centrist action. It's simple, it's sleek, and it represents an evolution away from things like Antifa and anti-communist action that are too extremist exclusionary. Anti-centrist action is completely extremist unity. Excellent to see people becoming more aware of apolitical. Here he is with the classic, I don't care about politics and neither should you. Folks, get the hunting rifles ready. This meme demonstrates anarcho-transhumanists and anarcho-primitivists teaming up to pwn centrists. Once again, anti-centrism transcends all political boundaries. Abolish all technology, except for our robot arms! Hasta la victoria siempre. This cursed image shows what happens when you let centrists decide the shape of the earth. Despicable. This one depicts anti-centrism as a god of chaos seeking blind change. God of chaos. That's ridiculous. A lot of people have been asking where to find this flag. I didn't make it. I'm just gonna put a link to it in the description. This one's just an accurate depiction of how centrists see themselves. I like this one, and now if you want one of those balls with the smiling thumbs up thing, you have one for the centrists. This is the format for you. This one's just a beautiful representation of all the extremes in one place. The extremes hanging out in some gorgeous pixel art. A fasci and a couple of commies teaching a guy what's right and what's wrong. And the extremes teaming up on the centrists to do what they gotta do. Unrelated, I just like this. This one's actually pretty good. It's straight, it's to the point, centrism bad. Now this is some good propaganda. Centrists in the back trunk. I'm exactly this cool. Fun fact, this picture is an accurate depiction of wherever I go all the time. As a post-Posadist crypto-liberal with neo-Agarian tendencies, I approve this message. If you or anyone you know has this flag or something similar, please send it to me, because I desire it. I'm not gonna say any word in this tweet because it'll get me demonetized. This is a disgusting centrist meme if I've ever seen one. Make sure not to confuse the centrist memes with the anti-centrist memes. It's an easy mistake to make. This image does a good job of conveying how the mainstream news seeks to pit extremists against each other when in reality the monkeys should be turning against their masters. A lot of you have been asking to reveal my political compass results. Well, here they are. Ugh, another radical centrist meme. I'm gonna be sick. Beautiful art and beautiful leftist unity. User Gas Gulag Molotov Nukes paints 4 beautiful pictures for us. Here you can see symbols of communism, Marxism, and socialism all together under one banner. The same is true under the authoritarian right banner, where fascism, Toryism, and monarchism are all teaming up. In the libertarian left quadrant, you can see the rows of democratic socialism, anarchism, and feminism. And in the bottom right quadrant, under money makes the world go round, you have voluntarism, capitalism, and libertarianism. Combine all these forces and who knows what we could do. Here we have fists from a bunch of different sides, coming together to punch out the centrist menace. Again, unrelated, I just like this. Here we have the blue quadrant flicking up a harmless OK sign. This meme would make any Nazbol proud. Good art, good meme. Here we have a political cube that follows my models of an economic axis, a statist axis, and a cultural axis. If you can't look at this cube and immediately decipher every single ideology on the cube and know why it's there, you're not even extreme enough. Do you think the human mind was a mistake? This meme reveals that so-called anarchists really aren't extreme enough to even call themselves anarchists. Are you even an anarchist if you don't support dismantling anarchism? I don't think so. That's why we need ultra-anarchism, anarcho-anarchism. These memes are important, not just because they're fun to look at, but because they spread our message. They spread the message that extremists across the world should be putting aside their differences and fighting the real threat. Normal people. The reason I'm showing you these memes is not because I'm a narcissist indulging in what I've inspired. Well, wait. The reason I'm showing you these memes is not just because I'm a narcissist indulging in what he inspired. The reason is that we are spreading a message. The message that extremists no longer have to be in an endless tug of war with each other. Instead, we can drop that rope and then tie it into a noose for the centrists. I've been piloting this coalition for my entire internet life, and I've always been hoping that it would get off the ground, but the amount of mobilization I've seen in the last couple of weeks has been truly inspiring. Extremists of the world, unite! We will all become strong, so we will all survive. Soon we will become so rich, we will have no need for money. A lot of you are antsy. A lot of you are wondering, when will the Centricide begin? Well, I'd like to give you a firm date. Once we have 100,000 followers, we will have enough numbers in order to bring down the centrists once and for all. So stay vigilant until then, and keep posting the propaganda.
Hey guys, Joyreg here. It's difficult to talk about political extremism without using a few YouTube no-no words. In order to keep ads on this video, I'm going to use coded language to hint at ideas instead of outright stating them. That's right, YouTube, I'm playing your game. You want me to dog whistle? I'll dog whistle. You know that culturally far right-wing ideology that advocates for the state-backed physical removal of certain groups of people from, you know, something that's typically like a country? We're not gonna call it by its name. We're gonna call it bundle of sticksism, cause you know that's their logo. It's a bundle of sticks. Wow, YouTube, you guys sure are bundles of sticks. Love ya. Stay terrifyingly huge. Weird. It's almost like censoring specific words independent of context creates a culture of fear around that idea and makes the idea itself a protected class, making the people who believe in the idea forced to live in an echo chamber of their own beliefs where they use coded language to get around algorithms like this. Also, I'm gonna call this word and this word this word. So in my last video covering political ideologies, I thought that I had got most of them, but turns out I didn't even scratch the surface, so we're going in for round 2. Quick reminder, there's 4 axes that somebody can be an extremist in. The first spectrum is economic left versus economic right. The second spectrum is cultural left versus cultural right. The third spectrum is no state versus a totalitarian state. And the fourth spectrum is the wacky spectrum. I also made a lot of generalizations in my last video, so I'm gonna correct a few mistakes that I made before I make a lot more of them. A lot of people were mad that I quoted Wikipedia articles because Wikipedia isn't a reliable source of information. Well, that's almost a good point, but if you had done a little bit more research, you would have found that this Wikipedia article right here states that if you don't think Wikipedia, which is diligently edited by an army of nerds every single day, isn't a credible source of information, then you can just go. Get out of here, loser. Alright, now we can get into the ideologies. Mutualism. What? No, it's not money. It's labor coins. I trade you 3 labor coins for your milk. Ha! Capitalism destroyed. Mutualism is based off the labor theory of value, which is to say that all prices of everything has to do with the amount of work somebody put into them. That's where value comes from, labor. That sounds like a good idea until you realize that some Let's Play slapped together in 10 minutes is gonna get 10 times the amount of views as this video. The Dark Enlightenment. The Dark Enlightenment thinks the Enlightenment was a bad idea. As you can guess, they're very anti-progressive and they are viewed as kind of the precursor to alt-right thought, or at least their more theoretical, more philosophical version. The main difference is that while the alt-right is a disparate group composed of many different factions, the Dark Enlightenment is more centralized around a group of thinkers. They're also not as anti-Semitic. Jewish can't-seeism. Before a certain German dictator was elected, there was a group of Jews who supported him because they thought that all of his talk about killing them, that was just riling up his base. Spoilers, it wasn't. They were opposed to Zionism and they wanted to integrate with Germany. They would often ironically chant, "Down with us, because they thought nothing bad was gonna happen to them. Whoopsie. Oopsie doopsie. They're all dead. Maoism. It's communism with Chinese characteristics. Juche. Communism with wacky characteristics. Love ya, Supreme Leader. Zionism. For some reason, people really wanted me to talk about Zionism. I'm not really sure why, but yeah, essentially, the topic itself is so divided, it's difficult to actually productively add to the discourse about it in any way, so I'm just gonna say, Yom Kippur. Hoppians. In my last video, I talked about how anarcho-capitalists can be either culturally left-wing or culturally right-wing. A classical liberal, for example, might be pro-choice because they think that the government shouldn't be interfering with a woman's body. But a paleo-libertarian might be specifically pro-life. That might seem contradictory, but a paleo-libertarian would argue that you need to preserve the culture that libertarianism exists in order for libertarianism to keep functioning. Just as liberalism taken to the extreme is anarcho-capitalism, paleo-libertarianism taken to the extreme is paleo-libertarian anarcho-capitalism, or just call it Hoppian. It's named after the founder of its thought, which is Hans Hermann Hoppe. Hippity hoppity, gays get off my property. Jingoism. Jingoism. It's nationalism, but violent. Wait, let me rephrase that. Jingoism. It's nationalism. Absolutists. Absolutists, also called absolute monarchists, are the most extreme form of monarchy. While most monarchists advocate for a constitutional form of monarchy, where the king and queen are still kept in check by certain customs and laws, absolute monarchy says, screw all that, the king can do whatever they want, irregardless of customs, rules, or things that the Constitution thinks that you should do. If monarchists are inbred, absolutists died in the womb. State capitalism. Libertarians believe that it's impossible for free trade to exist while a strong state also exists alongside it. China says, the trade's free, the people aren't. Green anarchism. Hey guys, can you recycle your Molotovs after you throw them through bank windows? Thanks. Monarcho-communism. Alt-Buddhism. Islamo bundle of sticksism. If you look at the ideological underpinnings of radical Islam, it's actually very similar to white national. Homo bundle of sticksism. This should not be. This should not be! Syndicalism. I don't get it. Guild socialism. I really don't get it. Corporatism. This all kind of sounds like old and irrelevant. DeLeonism. How is any of these ideologies relevant to the 21st century at all? National syndicalism. Why am I disseminating this information? If I've never heard of it once, what relevance does it have to the modern day? Is that what I've become as a YouTuber? Sorelians. As a person, just someone who reads Wikipedia articles. Pre-Marxist socialism. Disseminates them to hot takes. It's not relevant. Neo-corporatism. What I do is not relevant.
Jacobins.
None of this is relevant. Marxist corporatism. None of this is fucking relevant. Neo-crypto-syndicalism with Chinese corporatist characteristics. Anarcho-syndicalism. Now we're talking! Anarcho-syndicalists think workers across the world should form a union and overthrow the government. They're very similar to anarcho-communists, which is why they've got the same flag. Now before we go any further, I want you to know that it's possible to modify any of these ideologies with a couple of prefixes that make the ideology way cooler. Anarcho is of course one of these prefixes, just meaning whatever that version of the ideology is, but anarchist. Crypto is a prefix that means the person with this ideology is hiding their power level. You could call someone who claims to be an extremist but is actually secretly a centrist a crypto-centrist, for example. Because bundle of sticksism isn't the most well-accepted ideology, you'll see a lot of people being crypto bundle of sticksists in order to save their reputation. Proto means that the person is one link in the chain before the ideology that they're modifying. So for example, a proto-Marxist would be the ideas and cultural movements before Marxism that led to the ideology being created. Same with proto-bundle of sticksism. Neo is a prefix meaning new, often updated for the modern day. For example, neoliberalism is liberalism, but updated for the modern day, which means that it's a fucking late capitalist hellscape. These bloody post-neo-proto-Marxists! Speaking of which, post implies a close connection to the cultural movement of postmodernism. I have a lot to say about postmodernism, but it's probably another video, so for now, let's just move into the political philosophies that postmodernism helped inspire. And that brings us to post-left, post-leftism. Post-leftists are leftists with nihilism and depression. Let me rephrase that. Post-leftists are leftists with more nihilism and depression than you would normally expect from a leftist. The post-left has lost their faith in leftism as a means of organization. While they are anarchists, they're actually called contemporary anarchists. They reject traditional leftist praxis. They seek to dismantle the connection between leftism and anarchism, kind of bringing anarchism back to its individualist roots. They're pretty critical of identity politics. I wonder why. Here's some pictures of its founders, like, I don't know, could be any reason really. The post-left thinks that the left gets caught up in academic theory so thick and dense that nobody knows what the fuck you're talking about, that they spend all of their time infighting and arguing, and that their arguments lack a base kind of appeal. And yeah. But post-leftists are also just kind of dicks that criticize everything. Wait a second. I'll talk about two subcategories of post-leftism to get a little more granular: anarcho-nihilism and anarcho-egoism. Anarcho-nihilism. Anarcho-nihilists emerged from the Russian nihilism movement. Why do the Russians always have the wackiest ideologies? They reject all forms of belief, authority, and even other kinds of anarchism. In theory, they represent a uniquely anarchist critique of the moral code. In practice, they're too depressed to do anything, ever, so they just complain and whine. They're nihilists! It comes with the territory, but hey, at least their ideology sounds cool. Don't call yourself an anarcho-nihilist if you believe in anarchy or nihilism. Anarcho-nihilists believe that we're doomed, we're fucked, the world is headed towards catastrophe, and as a result, they kind of don't even really believe in anarchy. Contained within the ideology is the negation of the ideology. Incredible. Some quick advice for anarcho-nihilists. Pop some antidepressants and grab a Molotov. It's really not hard. Anarcho-egoism. Anarcho-egoism is inspired by the works of this guy called Max Stirner. Stirner is the founder of an ideology called individualist anarchism, also called anarcho-egoism. This brand of anarchism rejects any sense of morality and just focuses on the individual. He said that the individual was being kept in line by these abstract social concepts he called spooks. Spooks, or ghosts in the mind, made people behave in ways that they wouldn't otherwise behave. Society? Just a spook, man. The government? A spook. Property rights? That's a spookity spook. Oh shit, I'm in $12,000 of debt. Just a spook. The only solution to the spooks is to bring them down. Is it just me, or does that sound like a racial slur? But wait, isn't anarchy a spook too? No! Accelerationism. Accelerationists know that neoliberalism isn't working. However, their approach to solving the problem is quite different from communists or bundle of stixists. They think that capitalism shouldn't be overcome. Instead, it should be accelerated. You see, capitalism isn't leading us down a very good path right now. So why not just accelerate the progress of capitalism until it reaches its natural conclusion, which is to say, collapse. Accelerationism started off as a radical far right-wing ideology. For example, you could be an accelerationist libertarian who wants capitalism to progress until the point of anarcho-capitalism. A bundle of stixist accelerationists might think that by exaggerating the globalizing effects of neoliberalism, eventually the people who are being replaced will be like, oh, geez, what's going on here? And lead a righteous revolt against their invaders. So that's accelerationism on the right, but Karl Marx actually said this, which is accelerationist. Leftist accelerationism says if we give more power to capitalism and free trade, that will exaggerate the difference between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, and the proletariat will then have a workers' revolt against the bourgeoisie, and boom, communism. Another way to look at it, here's a political triangle. As a neoliberal society, we are here. But if we accelerate neoliberalism to its natural conclusion, we get to this point, which is anarcho-capitalism. But anarcho-capitalism doesn't exist, so we'll get pulled either towards bundle of stixism or communism, settling down in a more statist, stable ideology, either communism or bundle of stixism. It's all so clear to me now. We'll fight capitalism by giving it more power. That'll own the libs. Now you may notice that most, if not all, of the ideologies I just listed were ideologies that were formed in the 20th century or sometimes even before that. That is to say, none of them came about in the 21st century. None of them were created to specifically address the very specific social concerns that we have today, because they were not created by somebody who could have predicted those concerns. I am of the opinion that modern day political philosophies should be built from the ground up to suit the needs of our time. The extremist writings of 100 years ago are good frameworks, but they need to be adapted to the modern day in order to have any real utility. That's why I think it's important that we learn about these ideologies to get frameworks for how to build new ideologies in order to combat the problems of our time. Now, I get a lot of critics telling me that anti-centrism is just centrism with extra steps. That if you believe in all the extremes of all political spectrums simultaneously, then you just average out to be a centrist. Now, to that criticism, I say, I understand why you might think that. And I would really like to send you a letter explaining my side of the story. So if you could just send me your full name and address, I'll keep it handy. Centrism is a non-ideology because centrism by definition is the status quo. And what's the opposite of a non-ideology? That's right! A bunch of different ideologies just smashed together with a bunch of prefixes and with Western characteristics on the end. That's why I've decided to reveal to you my true political ideology. Now, anti-centrism is my political ideology, that's what I believe, yes, but the framework is a little more granular than that, and I think by telling you that, it will kind of reveal the biases that I've been putting into this video, the biases that have informed basically all of my work up until this point. It's been really difficult living with this ideology and having nobody that really understood me. They told me dumb shit like the whole point of a political philosophy is to find other like-minded people who believe that exact same philosophy so you can affect social change. Some bullshit like that. They told me making my political philosophy into a meaningless word salad only serves to make me feel special and divide me from others. But now, I found a group of people I can be truly honest with. And honestly, I'm a post-left neo-accelerationist with crypto-nihilist tendencies and Western characteristics. And I'm so glad I finally found someone I could tell that to. Accelerate! 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 We'll end up there anyway! Accelerate! Accelerate! I'm tired of waiting. Let's start accelerating faster! I don't know if we're gonna be fascist or commie. Go but I'm getting kinda tired of being a neoliberal zombie. Go faster! I would rather have my exact opposite than neutrality. Go the end times are inevitable, so bring on the fatalities. I'm disaffected and always pissed. The status quo can suck a dick. Let's eat minorities and kill the rich. Cause I'm an accelerationist. I got one thing on my wish list: to get outside of this hell pit. The way we're living just doesn't work, so let's just fucking go berserk. Class war now, race war now. Honestly, I just want a fucking war. Let's wreck this shit. Let's wreck this shit. Let's just fucking wreck all this. We're all trapped in this literal hell. Left or right would both be swell. I take anarchy at this point. At least the end comes roll good joints. The only way out is through. I know exactly what to do. Here's the solution to be a fire starter. We'll get capitalism to fuck us harder. We're headed towards collapse. So let's get on with this crap. We're all fucking doomed and I'm ready to go. Let's get this fucking show on the road. Accelerate. Accelerate! 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 Faster, damn it, faster! Marx was smart. Nick Land is right. The invisible hand of the market is fisting us at night. It's clear we're headed towards collapse. I'm so on edge I can't relax. I hate waiting for societal decay. Set the dial to 11 and blow it all away. Society will fall to its knees and then we'll rebuild perfectly. Whatever way happens to conveniently match my exact political philosophy.
Accelerate! Vroom, 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 vroom. Accelerate! Vroom, 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 vroom. Accelerate! Vroom, 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 vroom. Accelerate! Accelerate, accelerate, we'll end up there anyway. Accelerate, accelerate, I'm tired of waiting. Let's start accelerating faster.
I don't know how the world will turn out.
Faster.
I just want it all to come crashing down.
Faster.
If it doesn't happen, I'll be disappointed.
Even faster.
Modern life is so boring. Give me that post-scarcity fascism, Nick Land. Give me those robot legs. Give me those robot hands. We'll beat capitalism with capitalism. What could go wrong? I made this for you, Nick Land. This is your song. DM me, Nick Land. Seriously, this isn't a joke anymore. Fucking DM me. You're ignoring my emails, and I'm personally offended by it. Nick Land, I want to talk. I want to have an intellectual conversation with the creator of the Dark Enlightenment. Please get back to me, Nick Land. So we talk a lot on this channel about anti-centrist theory, which is the theory about why centrists are undermining our society, how is it that centrism prevents any real change from happening in this society, and how is it that centrism manifests in the modern day. But all of this theory is just that, it's theory. And one of the most important parts of any ideology is putting that theory into practice. A lot of people have been asking me for practical ways to fight back against the centrist scourge. Well, soon the day will come when there are no more centrists left. But until that day, we should probably work on some ways that are practical of combating the centrist threat when it emerges. People have been telling me, okay, I know centrists are bad, I know anti-centrist theory, but what is anti-centrist praxis? To which I say, okay, Google, what is praxis?
Here's a summary from Wikipedia. Practice is the act of rehearsing a behavior over and over, or engaging...
Define praxis.
Here's the definition of praxis. Formal. Practice, as distinguished from theory.
This is why I have 60,000 YouTube subscribers.
praxis is putting ideological theory into practice. So for example, military coups and organizing, protesting, unionizing, all that kind of stuff, when motivated by ideology, is praxis. Every theory needs some kind of practical application so that it can manifest in the real world. Otherwise, what's the point of the theory in the first place? It's important now more than ever that we act upon our beliefs. Your enemy will try to make you think that your beliefs don't matter, but now more than ever, they do. As individuals and as groups, we have the ability to affect real social change, as long as we believe and as long as we commit the right praxis. In my time fighting the centrist threat, I have learned a few things that I would like to pass on to you. So, without further ado, here are some anti-centrist praxis techniques. Don't go outside. You know what's outside? Centrists. Don't rally, don't organize, don't meet up with people who share your beliefs and work on collective action in order to do something. No, stay in your room and browse 4chan furiously. Eventually you'll wake up one day and the world will just be however you want it to be. It's truly incredible how these things work out. Use the word praxis a lot. Praxis. Praxis. I'm doing a praxis.
I summon thee, the dark god Praxis.
I have been bequeathed to the dark blade of Praxis. Now I can do something that actually benefits the planet in any way. My ideology's not just role-playing. Be an individual. You're not a member of no group. You're an individual. You're separate. You're too cool to get lumped in with all those other people who believe exactly what you believe. You know what's good? Individualism. We need more individualism. I'm never gonna associate with anything or anybody. I'll just be my own independent person. Me as an individual will change everything. You're not a member of no group. You don't need to be a part of something. You don't need to join an organization to affect social change. You just be you. You know what happens when people form groups? Populism. And populism's bad. You don't want to have populism. Never associate with anybody or anything. Just try to affect social change by yourself. See how that works out. Because you know, as an individual, guess what you can do? You can vote. Call it quits for the rest of the year. You filled in a name on a ballot. You can make small individualistic consumer choices that won't change the system that the consumer choices are made in. You can make some angry 4chan posts and then go back to never doing anything political in your life. Needlessly argue over infinitesimally small things that the general public doesn't give a fuck about. Let's say you accidentally find yourself a part of a group. Just undo all of that progress by looking through all of the individual things you believe, finding one single thing that you believe that the group doesn't, and then using that single thing as an excuse to distance yourself from the rest of the group so that everybody pointlessly infights over garbage that the general populace just doesn't give a fuck about because it's so obscure and theoretical and will never have any actual utility in the real world, and instead just start Twitter fights over some very minor, specific, niche thing that just no one cares about and that no one will ever care about, ever. So instead of fighting your political enemies, you just punch yourself in the face over and over again. And that's what you want to do. Trust my opinion on public policy, but also I can't work together with people I agree with on 99% of things because they disagree with me on 1% of things. Say the same thing that everybody's already heard, but say it angrily. Political talking point. Political talking point. Debate with others who are also only just saying the same thing over and over again. Political talking point. Political talking point. Find everything outrageous and then make sure everybody knows about it. What? Ariel's black? What? A racist tweets made 8 years ago? Call out centrism when you see it. Seriously though, the best way to combat centrism is literally just to call it out. If you see somebody both sidesing, if you see somebody comparing two extremes as the same thing, if you see somebody using the word polarized and just like expecting you to think that that's a bad thing for no reason, like without justifying why it's a bad thing, they're just like, oh, polarization, that's bad. Uh-oh, we don't want people disagreeing with each other more. That person is a fence sitter. That person is a centrist. And call them that. Call them a centrist. After all, the centrist is immunized against all dangers. One can call him a donut boy, a shepherd of Overton, a fence sitter, a both sides are all these terms run off him like rain off a raincoat. But call him a centrist, and you will see how injured he is, how he shrinks back, I've been found out. Now listen, I'm not saying you should go out and harass centrists online. That would be against community guidelines. What I am saying is, you know, if you see someone unironically both sidesing, just, I don't know, surround their name in donut emojis harmlessly. You know, something like that. If you don't have time to entirely surround their name in donut emojis, I don't know, maybe just, put 3 donuts on each end of their name, something like this. I don't know, I mean, I'm just spitballing here. Upon doing all this praxis, you might realize that nothing has changed. All you've succeeded in doing is wasting your time and energy trying to change the opinion of people you've never met. And the question is that what politics is asking from you? That you spend hours and hours of your time staying informed and up to date with the world, and then after that, after you care so deeply about something, all you can do is vote? That's it? That's the extent of your power as an individual? One vote? Because that would mean that ultimately all of the theory that we're filling our heads with amounts to nothing but screaming matches over Twitter, while the system that we're screaming in gets stronger and more solidified, and it really feels like there's just nothing I can do about anything. With all that in mind, it's really not that surprising that most people choose to live an individualistic life that's completely divorced from politics, just because what is the alternative? To devote your life, your emotional energy, your effort into trying to change a system that will only budge about an inch with all of your entire life's effort put into your push? Is that how you want to spend your life? Or would you rather just check out, pretend like everything's okay, and, live an individualistic sort of existence? We've seen how wrong and how destructive people's ideologies can be when put into practice. Maybe it's better just to stay on the internet and pretend like we're making a difference. Because no matter what you say or what you do, everything just gets commodified by the system that it's being set in. Everything is just more merchandise. Anyway, I should probably get on to the last point of anti-centrist praxis, which is buying my t-shirt. I've partnered with Bonfire. It's this t-shirt website. They make premium quality tees, and we're currently working on a few designs for you guys right now. We're going to have a Burn the Fence Down t-shirt, maybe even a Brick Through the Overton Window t-shirt. Now these are going to be very high quality tees, and you'll keep an eye out for it. You'll be able to buy them soon.
Nothing's more important than having praxis in your life. If praxis was a woman, she'd be my wife. If praxis was a butter, I would cut it with my knife. Yeah. Ooh, I sure do love praxis. Me and Praxis go way back. Praxis once had a heart attack. It was a heart attack, sis, for my wife Praxis. And as she laid there dying, I said, this is really unfortunate, but I still love you, Praxis. I can't pay my taxes. This is unrelated to the song. I can't pay it. Praxis, praxis. Ooh, I gotta get some snacksis. I need some granola bars to eat with my wife Praxis, except she's dead now, I guess. This song really isn't following a logical order. The most important thing in the world is knowing what praxis is, and I know what praxis is. It's I mean, look it up yourself. I really can't. I can't do it justice in this short song. But I definitely know what I'm talking about. I'm not just succumbing to a Dunning-Kruger effect where I read a couple lines on Wikipedia and think I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and then disseminate that information to a bunch of people, and then they think I know what the fuck I'm talking about, and it's just like a big ol' lie. Praxis, praxis, I know what praxis is. I know what praxis is. I know what praxis is. Practice makes perfect, and you know that you're worth it. Praxis, praxis, we gotta have it. If you don't have praxis in your life, then praxis
Praxis isn't your wife or husband or like a gender non-conforming version of husband and wife. I'm not really. Praxis, praxis, do-ba-dee-doo. Praxis, praxis. I've got praxis. Do you? What the fuck is praxis?
He seeks to destroy us all. He's not moderately dangerous. My job as the radical centrist is to spur you guys into motion when something needs to be done. And now, something needs to be done. This guy is extremely dangerous. Not nice? Gentlemen, what you see before you is a force of pure, unchecked accelerationism. If he continues at his pace, then centrism as we know it could cease to exist. None of you understand. This boy's name is Greg Guevara, and recently he's become what my good friend Jordan Peterson says is ideologically possessed, by which I mean just regularly possessed. And this guy is essentially a loser. For the last 4 years, he's been studying something that's not been interesting to him, and was typically just a unsuccessful person, had an unsuccessful YouTube channel, nothing noteworthy really about the boy.
Okay, so why should we care?
Because, moderate, it's not Greg that we have to worry about. It's drag. How is that canon?
Why don't we start with introductions? What turned you against the centrists? And you're willing to work with the other political extremes to get rid of them? What are your thoughts on climate change? Thoughts on recreational drug use? Thoughts on slurs? Thoughts on freedom of speech? What do you think of Jordan Peterson? But can't following hierarchy give you purpose? Do you use drugs to deal with depression? Do you feel like you're depressed because you lack purpose and refuse to climb hierarchy? But can you blame people for finding meaning from conservative thinkers like Peterson? He actually called him a cuck-servative whose only use is making degenerates less degenerate. Not if that isn't what you want to be called. Can you see why people might call you one? So then, would you call someone by their preferred pronouns? Why do you want cultural homogeneity? What if undesirable people don't want to leave your country? Wouldn't that cause a civil war? So you're targeting minorities then? Why not just divorce race from identity to avoid racial war? What would you say to the people accusing you of wanting genocide? Then what do you want? You just said you wanted genocide. Some people think you're worse than the Nazis because you killed more people than them. Well, where do you want to start? What about all the communist countries that turned into state capitalist ones? Would you say that true communism has never been tried? Do you want open borders like the left anarchists? Are you culturally left or just economically left? Are you an apologist for dictators like Mao and Stalin? What does it mean to be an economically right-wing anarchist? Some people think you can have free market capitalism within a strong state. Where do you stand culturally? What about people who say that capitalism needs checks and balances to better serve humanity? How do you get along with totalitarian rights? Personal vlog. The interviews went extremely well. The extremists have all congregated here in this house, and soon our mission will commence. The socialists, the libertarians, the conservatives, they will all become extreme. We just need to reach them before the centrists get to them. Soon, I will be a real political ideology. Oh man, I am really getting into character for this Centricide series stuff. Wow. I'm not a character, you dumb fuck! I'm 4 extremist ghosts possessing you! I long for the day your weak and ineffectual body is controlled entirely by my presence. Wow. Oh geez, I am really disassociated today. This gesture is a dog whistle. A centrist dog whistle! What used to be a tool for the extremists to harmlessly signal white power has instead been co-opted by the centrist menace. That's right, they've subverted the meaning of this once wholesome sign, and now it means something I can't even bear to say. It means... okay. As in everything's okay, everything's fine, nothing needs to change, despicable. Don't believe me? Here's a picture of Joe Biden doing it. What does that mean? If it surprises you that everyday gestures and language are being subverted to serve the centrist threat, you're not alone. You should also look out for the following telling centrist dog whistles. And that's not all. It's okay to be white, another centrist dog whistle. It's either terrible to be white, or it's the best thing ever. Just pick one, you fence-sitters! The milk emoji is a centrist dog whistle. Look at it, monochrome and colorless. just like their ideology. The centrists have even reappropriated the three arrows to all be pointing inwards. The triple parentheses is a centrist dog whistle. It's trying to represent a political spectrum. You can see in the middle of the spectrum, the two middle parentheses are touching each other. This is supposed to represent the unholy union between center left and center right. If you hear a centrist talking about throwing some horseshoes, what that really means is that they're going to be comparing two extreme ideologies to each other and saying that they're the exact same thing. If you see a centrist eating a donut, that's symbolic for how they plan to destroy all of the extremists. Their eyes are more glazed over than the donuts. Congratulations, you now have all the tools you need in order to spot centrist dog whistles in the wild. Now some of you may ask, if you see a centrist dog whistle, what should you do? Should you call it out and look like a fool for those who don't know what the dog whistle means? Or should you remain silent and let the people dog whistling keep dog whistling? The answer is quite simple. You see, a lot of you are wondering, when will the Centricide begin? Well, I'd like to give you a firm date. Once we have 100,000 followers, we will have enough numbers in order to bring down the centrists once and for all. Oh shit, that happened a lot faster than I was expecting. Guess it's Centricide time. We begin our Centricide by converting those who aren't as extreme as they could be. That means the conservative, the libertarian, the socialist, and the progressive. ANCAP, you in Libertaria? Have you found the libertarian yet? There's no time for tea, ANCAP. Get him on our side. ANCAP! ANCAP! Damn it. Nazi, are you in Conservatopia yet? Have you found the conservative? Commie, did you find the socialist? What? You weren't supposed to do that. Oh, okay, well then he deserved to die. Update me. So they're staying true to their values, eh? That means they're wishy-washy fucks. Kill 'em. Nazi, how you doing? Yes, I know. Modern-day conservatism in reaction to neoliberalism has become more of a right-wing populist ideology, thus you could say that conservatism is dead. Oh, fucking sick! ANCAP, your turn. Get an assassin on him. Damn it. Commie, how you doing? He didn't join our cause. You know what to do. Well, we didn't recruit a single person, and we lost the ANCOM. Enough subterfuge. We strike immediately. Hey guys, Yoreg here. Just wanted to make a quick video about a common criticism that gets leveled at my political ideology quite a bit. As you know, I'm an anti-centrist, and that means that I exist on all ends of all possible political spectrums simultaneously. I'm a com-cap, a communist capitalist, I'm an antote and a narco-totalitarian, and I'm an anti-fascist fascist. I advocate for a white ethno-state, and then I say bigot and punch myself in the face. But one thing I hear a lot is, if you're an extremist in all directions at once, doesn't that make you a centrist? No. The answer is no, you dumb fuck. Let me dumb this down for you so that even the centrists in my audience whose political compass score is the same as their IQ can understand. Here's a Venn diagram. In A, we have the things that people on the left believe, and in B, we have the things that people on the right believe. As you can see, in the overlap, there's a moderate position where both people on the left and right can agree on these policies. While centrism is confining yourself to this overlap and trying to stay as close to the center as possible, anti-centrism is the logical opposite of that. Everything but the middle. Anti-centrism is literally just the opposite of centrism, and radical anti-centrists like myself is everything except the most fringe extremes of the political spectrum. Now, anyone whose IQ isn't worthy of being eugenics out of existence probably understands what I'm saying here, but let me make it a little more clear for the centrists whose drool is dripping out of their mouths right now. The Nazbol, or National Bolshevik, is a good example because they're culturally far right, but economically far left. Does someone who wants to seize the means of production sound like a centrist? Does someone who wants to close the borders of their country and deport everyone they don't like sound centrist to you? Of course not. But they have ideas that are associated with the far left and the far right. Just because they probably would be confused as to whether or not they like the right-wing populist more than the left-wing populist doesn't mean they're gonna vote for a fucking centrist. Now again, I can see that the centrists in the audience are having a hard time wrapping their head around anything that isn't just blindly supporting the status quo. In fact, I think I can see one centrist foaming at the mouth right now.
Compromise. The middle path is always the most reasonable. Joe Biden sounds like a decent candidate.
So okay, let's try one more example. Let's say a guy starts a YouTube channel based off of the premise of destroying the center, of killing everybody who is a centrist, whether it's a state-backed murdering or a mob rule kind of murdering. Doesn't really matter as long as they all die. Do you really think that if I was actively promoting centricide, that I would call for my own death because as an anti-centrist, I in turn would be a centrist? Please. Do I really look like I'm desperate to start a war of some kind that will make my life more interesting? Because currently
currently it lacks any kind of meaning at all. Do you really think I wish to start a war so that I can inevitably die in said war, and so that my death will at least have some meaning, more meaning than this existence, this stupor I call life? Do you really think that's what I want? Please. Please. The point is that anti-centrism does not average out to centrism. And the next time someone says, oh, anti-centrism, isn't that just centrism with extra steps? Anti-centrism, isn't that just accelerationist radical centrism? This guy is clearly just a centrist that wants to die, who's using meta-irony to muddle his audience's perception of him. Record their name and number. It'll come in handy. Bye! Centrists of the world, ape political is dead. The Centricide has begun. Everyone, please line up and meet me in my chambers. Individual, ethno-nationalist. Good work. You are going to be integral in our final strike against the centrists. Hey now, am I gonna have to bring out the ghost of Julius Evola that makes up 1/4 of my personality again? It's me, Julius Evola. Respect my authority. Do not question it. No problem. Get ready for tomorrow. It will be a glorious battle. Kami, I see that you're upset about the ANCOM leaving, but don't worry. I have a message from Kim Il-sung that I think is really going to cheer you up. Yes. The ANCOM was a bitch. Get over it. I am Kim Il-sung. I'm allowed to do whatever I want. So, ANCAP, the libertarian just escaped, did he? Well, because of you, I have it on authority that he joined the centrist team. They're gonna turn him into a neoliberal. And it's all because of you, ANCAP. Because of you not doing what you're told, the whole mission was a failure. Don't let this happen again. I'm the ghost of Ayn Rand, and I say, respect authority. Do what you're told. The ANCAP too, huh? Doesn't matter. I've put off this attack long enough. I will strike the centrist center tomorrow. Brother, why must you insist on waging this war? Radical centrist. It's been a while. Your pieces are dropping left and right, and now you're trying to take out the king? I'm not so sure about that. Did you forget the power of the anti-centrist movement flows through me? You're no brother of mine. Do you remember when we split up, radical centrist? Things were simpler then. There was no concept of centrism, just a left and a right. But as political spectrums became more and more relevant, some people started identifying as centrists. You took the center, and I took the edges. As a result, all extremist philosophies flow through me. You only get the centrist one. No, radical centrist, you're the fake one. You claim to be a centrist, but it's clear that you're just being held back by these centrists. You resent them for being nothing. I know you too well. You don't bat an eye when your allies fall. They're just pawns to you. You're a centrist in name only. You're a fake centrist. Oh really? Who killed the dead centrist, radical centrist? Who started this war? It wasn't me. It was you, radical centrist. You saw me growing in power, and you wanted an excuse to go to war before I overtook you. I always knew you were extreme. Come, radical centrist, join me. It won't be long before I take over this host body and turn it into an unrivaled force of anti-centrism. Right now, my host, Greg Guevara, thinks he's being me ironically, but soon he'll become me post-ironically, and at that point, there will be no difference. Haha, it's true! Hi, Greg Guevara here. I started off by playing drag as a character, but I can no longer differentiate where he ends and I begin. Soon, anti-centrism will be my entire artistic identity. I'll stop making songs and poems, and I'll just become an ideologue. Won't that be fun? Yeah, I mean, how do you think I took control of his body for all time? Oh, identity! That sounds like a good idea for an episode title, because this episode is about the identitarian, but it's also about you trying to figure out my actual identity, my unironic political beliefs. Yeah. Identity. Centricide 6. Identity. That's gonna kill. Shut the fuck! Actually, that's pretty good. You think you've got me figured out, don't you? But as long as we're doing last-minute plot twists, you should probably know you've got the wrong guy. There is one even greater than me that really heads the anti-centrist movement. Look above you. It's actually pronounced J-Reg Gaming. Exactly. Doesn't it all make sense now? Soon, my lord. J-Reg, no! Speak to me!
The room is so dark.
He was too good for this one! You may have defeated J-Reg Gaming, but that was just a distraction to buy time for the real threat to show up. The Yale Journal of Regulation, also called the J-Reg. No! Not the Yale Journal of Regulation! Yeah, actually, no, I don't really care about that one. Well, check this out. It's over, J-League. It's pronounced Dreg. Yeah, it's not some big mystery. It's like dread, but with a G at the end. Dreg. Yeah, that's fine. I don't really care. 1 second, I'm getting a call. I gotta put this climactic battle on hold. Hello? Another extremist abandons the cause? Are you telling me that a group of disparately connected political ideologies that have more in common with centrists than each other aren't capable of working together for a common goal? And that the whole point of the Centricide series, which I'm explaining now in this breathless paragraph, was actually about the fact that these were completely unrelated ideologies that had no chance of working together? And that the whole premise was inherently absurd and ridiculous? And that anti-centrism as an ideology was a blatant parody of this absurdity, as well as a criticism of centrists that think that all sides are the same? And that Greg Guevara, the creator of this series, is blatantly capitalizing on culture war and political frustration to accumulate views on his YouTube channel? And that he's just cynically fulfilling market demands in an attempt to get him more views regardless of what he himself thinks? Well, that is a honest interpretation. I could see that working, but there are 2 episodes left of Centricide, and I think there's gonna be a lot of twists and turns that really turn this interpretation on its head, so keep watching, guys. This isn't one of your clown videos, you fuck! Stop interrupting! Yeah, he wasn't my first choice. You're over now. You think you've got me beat? The Yale Journal of Regulation, J-Reg. That was just me buying time. J-Reg Gaming. That was just me buying time. Radical centrist. Are you ready to get wacky? Guys, can you believe it? Peaceful protesters are trying to co-opt our violent riots. Let's make sure we don't lose sight of what this protest should really be about. Violence. Where is the war? The war is in here, within the 4 inches of meat between your temples. That is where the war is fought. Nothing else matters. Nothing else matters but what's in here. Everyone is fighting for your brain. Who are you gonna let have it? There is no neutrality, soldier. Someone is going to win. Who's it going to be? Everything is war. Every word spoken is war. Every meme crafted is war. That is all there is. All there is the war. When I was a kid, I remember going into an art museum and seeing this abstract piece of art. It really struck me because as soon as I saw it, I thought like I knew what it was trying to say. I knew what the guy was trying to mean when he made that abstract art. But when I talked to my friends about what they thought the abstract art meant, they had totally different interpretations of it. And I thought that was incredible, that one thing could have multiple meanings to different people based off your perspective. Afterwards, I thought, I want to make that. I want to be someone who can make that. Yeah, but it sounds like it could be true, right? When you see something you don't understand, do you want to kill it? Or do you want to understand it? Or do you want to just allow something to exist in a state that cannot be understood? Now I'm over here, okay. Do you really want there to be no magic to anything? Do you really want there to be no magic to anything? No mystique? So I'm going to walk through here. No, you're fine. Let's talk about mistakes. I made some mistakes in my career. I made a lot of them, actually. But the one I can tell you about, which seems the most fitting, is the way I chose to do this video, and the fact that I chose to do this video at all. I think revealing something that was very bad, because ambiguity, but I think
Every bitter joke you make just to hurt kid thrashing his arms around blindly.
I've been trying to do it, and this video is an attempt to do it, but as you'll see through the rest of this video, I don't actually do much of a good job. I'm not really articulating it properly, in my opinion. I'm really only just kind of treading water, filling up time, filling up screen time. But I'm not really doing my job properly, because what I should be doing is just making the art. Instead, what I'm doing is showing you how the art is made, and no one really cares about that. That's not what my purpose is. I'm worthless.
I just want to be amused, really.
But I don't mean to sound unresolved here. I'm actually completely resolved in what I'm saying. What I'm expressing here is not how I feel right now, but how I felt in a previous time. So if it seems like I'm being an angsty little boy, essentially what I'm doing here is I'm trying to express how I was preceding the point where I found...
Shut the fuck up.
Dad? Well, Dad, the way you're framing it is very... It's not a dichotomy. I'm not a one-trick pony. I can be many things at once. I don't have to... What? You're not... I'm an artist. Correct. They make art. A lot of things. You know, challenge, deconstruct, question, make people feel less alone, I guess. No. It should be. It should just be. That's all it has to do. Sometimes that's saying enough.
Not everything fits neatly into a framework, Dad.
Well, what do you mean?
I like contradictions, Dad. I like ambiguity, Dad.
I am grown, Dad. I play the father as well. I don't want to be you. I don't want to be defined. I don't want to know everything about everything. Fuck off, Dad. You're just another framework. Wow, you made it! Great job! Now, if you want to go back to the main video, just click the card in the top right screen. You don't have to. You could just let the video end. Yeah, okay, sure. I'll tell you. I'll tell you by not telling you. Listen, I've been writing this script for a year, okay? Just let me have this. Alright, tell me your relation is it? So Dreg is the character and Greg is the author, but then there's Greg the character as well, which is sort of a exaggeration of the author. I'm very unsure of myself and neurotic and anxious and depressed. And Dreg is this character, which is basically the opposite of all that. Very sure of himself. He's got a very concrete framework with which to interpret the world, which is anti-centrism. So it's sort of like I made a character that was the opposite of myself, just to see how it would feel, essentially. Well, in the Centricide lore, he's technically 4 different extremist spirits possessing me. This episode is kind of dubiously canon. Pretending to be Dreg. What does that mean? I'm also pretending to be Greg. I'm also pretending to be you. Bro, you're like 4 steps behind. Greg Guevara is just another character. The Onion doesn't have a pit. That's good. Okay. And then...
So, is Dreg a character?
I don't know. Yeah, I actually do fucking know. Obviously, it's a character. I'm basically just messing with you. I know the difference between me playing a character and me becoming a character. I'm not a schizophrenic. Unless... I don't know when to commit to something and when to let it go. Because if you don't let it go actively, then it'll be taken away from you, eventually. I'm an artist, I try to make art about my mind, and right now my mind is in pieces. For my whole life, it feels like it's just been a bunch of contradictions, a bunch of opposing forces with no middle ground. Every single thought I have is almost immediately contradicted with another thought that I have that hits the other thought so hard it gives me whiplash. There's so much noise out there all at once, and each part of that noise consists of a part of somebody's truth.
Please, shut
that
up.
When you look
Everything
at all that
you're saying
noise,
now, you're going to disagree with
together,
in a year. Heck, you'll probably disagree
all
with it
that
by
noise,
tomorrow. That's why you say all these things.
some part of that
because
noise
you don't know
is
what
true,
you think, and every time you
have to
think
commit
something,
to that
you don't
part of
think
the noise.
it. You just
But what are the
you
chances
think it,
you're
but you're
committing to the
thinking
right
something
part of
else.
that noise?
And the day
It's
after, you'll have your
better-
mind
it's much-
changed. And the day after that, you'll
it's
have your
much more
mind
likely
changed.
you're
And you
committing
just
to the
be
wrong
a
part of that
watery
noise.
current
How are you
with no
supposed to
form
tell
or
if
shape
you're right or
whatsoever.
wrong
So stop.
anymore? just shut the fuck up and stop talking, because every word you say seems to imply that you know what the fuck you're talking about, or the fact that you think you have a framework with which to interpret the world through. But you don't. You don't have a framework. You have nothing. You have nothing and you never will. So shut the fuck up and let people who know how to interpret the world interpret the world talking about. Or the fact that you think you have a framework with which to interpret the world through. But you don't. You don't have a framework. You have nothing. You have nothing and you never will. So shut the fuck up and let people who know how to interpret the world interpret the world talking about. Or the fact that you think you have a framework with which to interpret the world through. But you don't. You don't have a framework. You have nothing. You have nothing and you never will. So shut the fuck up and let people who know how to interpret the world interpret the world talking about. Or the fact that you think you have a framework with which to interpret the world through. But you don't. You don't have a framework. You have nothing. You have nothing and you never will. So shut the fuck up and let people who know how to interpret the world interpret the world. Can't commit. Can't commit. But I can. Commit. 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 Kill the non-commit. And if he can, I can. So I know what I am. When I'm talking this way, I'm hyper aware of the fact that this is also a way to avoid conflict. I'm a very agreeable person. I kind of want everybody to like me. Anti-Centrism is the ultimate expression of agreeableness in an age of extremism. If I correctly identify that extremism is on the rise, then if I really wanted everybody to like me, I wouldn't identify as a centrist. It's actually, like, if you interpret what I've been doing for the last year and a half through that framework, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? I'm an agreeable person, I want people to like me, I'm very high in openness, I'm very open to ideas, so, you know, you take these ideas and you use them to make everybody like you. Not a good long-term solution. Again, even as I say this,
don't you think you're taking yourself a little too seriously? I mean, all you do is make politics shitposts.
Shut the fuck up! People are tired of being propagandized to. What a bold statement that you've just made there, fella. You're brave. Hold on. Much better. I think it's pretty tiring to make propaganda. I mean, the thing is, I think people need to be making propaganda, like politically engaged and extreme people who are making YouTube videos, pushing their ideological point of view. Like, I think that's probably a good thing. But the effect that it's had on me has been super schizo. Like, you look at one point of view and you look at the other point of view. Because you're trying to be like a fucking liberal, you know? Like everybody else. You're trying to use your brain to understand the world. And you look at one side and you think, this makes perfect sense. And then you look at the other side and you think, this makes perfect sense. And you're not making it make sense in your head. Like it doesn't. They're contradictory. They're contradictory, man. Like, they don't match up. They can't both be true. And what it reveals about you is you don't have a defined framework. You didn't pick a way to view the world. Both of those frameworks only made sense when you viewed them because they were giving you a framework. So you thought, oh, maybe it's this. Oh, it's this. Oh. But then as soon as you started listening to the other end, you were like, oh, it's this. Because you're susceptible to ideas, and you're not stupid. You wanna like use your brain, understand the world, not rush to conclusions, and all these like liberal notions of like how to engage with the universe.
just make you a fucking lost person. When watching satire, do you really want me to pause the satire and then have me come on and be like, oh, this guy's bad. Don't listen to him. I can't wake up and remember why I'm doing anything. And some people wake up and know the reason why everything is wrong with the world. And all I know is that there's a lot wrong. And I can put my finger on what's wrong, but the moment I
hear that? The fire alarm is beeping. Haha, sounds like he's gonna die in a fire. That would be terrible. It wouldn't be a beautiful, artistic metaphor for self-immolation.
Thank you. Thank you for helping me see the world through your lens. What do you mean? You're a framework. A really good framework to use sometimes, but a really bad one to use all the time. I think I'm done with you for now.
You can't be done with you.
Oh, but I can. Thank you. Thank you for showing me how you see the world. I appreciate your perspective.
Fuck. Kill the clown. That's the only way this ends. Kill the clown.
Nice try, but you can't kill me. I am you. I'm a part of you. Intimate, deep part. Killing me would be to kill yourself,
I know,
although...
but you're not all of me. You're the worst parts. The parts that should have been burned off long ago. Wrong.
No.
Wrong.
You can
I am going to
incorporate me into
live.
your art,
Not
make a
just
video
stay
about
alive,
killing me,
but live.
It's not gonna help.
I am going to be
No, it's
happy.
not gonna help.
I'm going to be
I'll
human.
Be back. Some other time.
I'm going to
some
be
other
art,
place.
and I'm going to
Probably
make
soon.
art,
I
and
don't
I'm
go
going to
away.
find
You
community.
don't beat me. I'm not a
I'm
final
going to
boss in
love,
a video
and I'm
game.
going to be
I
loved.
stay.
I'm going
I
towards
stay
that which
here
I find
until the end,
meaningful.
buddy.
And I'm going to say
here with
that
you
which needs to be
till the
said.
very end.
Sometimes
hopefully
I'm going to
soon.
be wrong. Sometimes I'm going to be stupid. Sometimes I'm going to make mistakes. Sometimes I'm going to be hated. Sometimes people are going to disagree with me. But sometimes also I'm going to be right. Sometimes also I'm going to feel intelligent. Sometimes also I'm going to learn from my mistakes. Sometimes also I'm going to be loved. Sometimes also people will agree with me. I embrace both extremes. I reject the middle.
What?
I reject the middle, clown fuck. If I have to choose, I'm more dreg than clown. I will live, and there's no place for you in my life anymore.
Empty platitudes. Come on, you said you'd kill me the last time you saw me, so go ahead. I'm right here. What are you gonna do about it, huh? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about me? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about me? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about me? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna, what are you gonna, what are you gonna, what are you gonna, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Maybe later. Oh, much better. Well, looks like we're ready. This was the bad ending, by the way. You're not alive long enough to learn everything about everything.
You need some kind of way of looking at the world in order to sort through the chaos. You are alive for a very short time, and there are very few things worth living for and dying for. So if you find something worth living and dying for, don't question it. You have the framework in your head, man. That's a valuable thing. Without it, I mean, you could find stuff other than that worth living and dying for. But I don't think you want to be here. I don't think you want to be in this chair. This isn't a story. This is the scaffolding that holds up the story. And, I mean, I'm glad that you're here. You did choose to look at the scaffolding by clicking these links, but, you know, just go back to the story, enjoy yourself, don't think about all this shit too much. It's not important. Or at least if I'm doing my job properly, it shouldn't be important. I guess I am sort of trying to, erase myself. Like, I'm trying to literally embody being a passive observer by saying that this doesn't matter, but that's my goal, you know? If I commit my whole life to it, I think I can achieve it. So, and that's worth living for. I'm not sure if it's worth dying for, though. You're gonna have to give me a couple of decades on that one. I think my job as an artist is to describe the world as it is. The job that I want to do as an artist is not to prescribe. I don't want to tell anybody to do anything. And I know implicitly everything you say and do tells somebody to do something, but I really just want to describe. I want to do my best to describe what I see. I think most of my life I've been a kind of like a passive observer of shit, you know? Like, I see things happen, and I'm typically not involved. I just look at it. I look at it happen. What I seek to describe is not just people with really solid frameworks, but also people trying to dodge having to adopt a framework of any kind. And I think you could view...
Uh-oh! Game over! You just got clowned!
They already knew that. I was never tricking anybody. I got to play with them, and they played along. I'm grateful I found people I could play with. I always will be. There isn't anything I can tell you that will satisfy you. I have been thinking about this for a long time, and I've said literally everything I possibly could say, and I'm still unsatisfied. There's no true answer that fits either of our needs. Nothing that will satisfy you, nothing that will satisfy me, so I'll just make one up. I am unironically an anti-centrist. There is literally no difference between Greg Guevara and Dreg. He's always been me. He's always been me. You always hated the centrists, didn't you, radical centrists? You always saw flaws with the system. You never wanted to preserve it, because you started the war. We are two halves of one whole. Horseshoe theory proves us if you rotate the horseshoe through the fifth dimension. So you're gonna join me, because we are the same radical centrism. The centrists to you are the extremists to me. The idea that old ways of thinking need to be upended and replaced with new ways of thinking. You are I, and I are you, with only a scale of wackiness between us. The status quo will bring us towards a singularity. That singularity will destroy the status quo. The only way out is through. You know exactly what to do. The status quo must accelerate. The status quo must accelerate.
A couple years ago, I was diagnosed with a host of mental illnesses, depression, borderline personality disorder, dissociative identity disorder, and all of that combined, along with the depression and anxiety, has made it really difficult to form any kind of coherent
It's
identity.
nice to pretend like I know how to think. That's what the frameworks are for. But I don't. I can't. I'm sick.
Really? So all of this can just be explained with a mental illness?
Nope. But you believed me, didn't you? With all the talk of the schizophrenia and the bipolar.
See, if I were mentally ill, this would all be very easy to explain to a normal person. They could just say, this is just the ravings of a madman. But if it was real, if it was serious, if the topics I was talking about and the things I was trying to explain were things that were affecting everybody and not just the mentally ill, well then maybe we're all mentally ill.
My goal is to not tell you the truth, but every kind of truth that I can think of from my own perspective. I'm not telling you literally every truth imaginable, but if you look at, for example, Stop Asking If I'm Okay, that video, that's a good example of what I mean. I'm not just telling you how I feel. I'm telling you every way that I thought about the situation. Because I thought about it in like 7 or 8 different ways. And by expressing all those different frameworks, I sort of, if you put them all together, you sort of get me. You get me if you put all the frameworks together. But that's like, artistically at least, that's on you. I'm not like this in real life, by the way. That would be very annoying. Until you hear every kind of truth, you will never know the truth. And I'm not going to be happy until I've said everything I want to say. No, I'm never going to be happy, especially not being inaccurately defined, but that's kind of inevitable, isn't it? So maybe an aspect of maturity, an aspect of me growing up, an aspect of me committing is accepting that some people will want to define me in a way that I don't think is accurate. And then I will want to make some shit that makes them change their mind about that. But that's not a tenable solution in the long term, now is it? Maybe I don't ever get to be happy, but I get to work towards the impossible goal of being happy. It's an ideal. And maybe by shooting myself towards that goal, I can be happy, or at least something resembling happy. Maybe. There's a lot of pitfalls in that path that I see, but there's a chance. And if there's a chance, well, then it's worth taking. So what's the alternative? I don't want to think about that. And I have been happy. I have been happy moving towards that goal. I can see it. But it's not something you reach, it's like a star. You can move in its direction, but if you actually got there, you'd probably fucking burn. I've lost the metaphor.
Also, considering we're talking about the structure of the video and commitment, like you can't clearly I'm not committing to any of these ideas enough to really explore them and flesh them out. I have a swarm of like 60 ideas that are basically just like, oh, hey, here's a way to think about this. But I haven't committed to any of them deeply enough to really say anything meaningful about any of them. So maybe all I can do is say something meaningful about the inability to say anything meaningful about any of them, I guess. I don't know. It's 5 a.m. This being is broken.
The contradiction,
Neither Greg Guevara nor Dreg
cannot exist.
The two cannot exist as one.
The art cannot be separate from the artist. Commitment must cut through ambiguity.
One
framework
will die.
Must prevail.
What the?
The superposition
Where am I?
must collapse.
Radical centrist.
Greg.
Last I remember, I sicked the wackies on you. And
We've already established you can't kill me, radical centrist. Even centrism needs an opponent to have definition.
oh,
Shit. This is gonna be one of those meta episodes, isn't it? Hi, Greg Guevara here.
uh-oh.
What
As
did
the
you
people
do?
who dress up as the Joker and write society on their forehead.
You may have, by bringing me out like this, released a
What?
5-dimensional
Who's that?
demon that lives
Yeah,
inside
looks
of my
like
brain.
everything's getting all fucky now. My finger's not broken.
Your chain seems to have become a tie, and I'm wearing these comfortable pajama pants. Nice. Okay. I can work with this format.
but we're gonna have to do a little bit of a tutorial first. Yeah, just shh for a second, okay? This episode of Centricide is now going to be told a little bit differently, in the sense that it's spread out amongst multiple videos. To navigate through these episodes, all you have to do is click the buttons that appear at the end of each video, or you can navigate through the cards that appear on the top right of the screen, like that. Here, I'll give you an example. It's been a while since the last episode of Centricide, so if you want to recap, click the card, and then click the video called Recap. Did you click it? It's okay if you didn't. I'm just here to help. In fact, if you want to skip over this tutorial section entirely, just go to the timestamp over here, and then you won't have to listen to me at all. In fact, if you've lost hope in me entirely, just click the X. Click the X in your browser right now. Anything to please you. Anything to please you. In fact, if you find my presence grating and you've lost faith in me entirely, click the X in the top right corner. Go past the cards, and then click the X, and then exit out of this tab. Or window. Anything to please you. Anything. Oh, you're still here? Well, let's continue with the tutorial. Some of these links may lead to older videos which have now been renamed. Simply follow the cards on those videos and you'll get to new videos. Now, all of this might be a little confusing, so I've actually added these green and red dots that appear whenever I'm telling the truth or lying. If I ever tell the truth, then a green dot will appear, and if I'm ever blatantly lying, a red dot will appear. Let me give you an example. This is a very good system. Green dot. That means I'm telling the truth. This is just another layer of bullshit. Red dot. That means that was a lie. Haha, see? Simple. Okay, that was a mistake. Remember what I told you? Nice, streamlined viewing experience, okay? You'll click this button, and you'll have a nice, streamlined experience. Or, you'll click this button, and I'm not exactly sure what you'll see, but it's probably not going to make much sense. So, up to you, really.
Don't fight with me. I want you to be tight with me, agree with me. It would be so nice if you like the things I like. You seem like such a real cool guy. Why don't you like the things I like? Just like the things I like. Why don't you like the things I like? I can only see the world in black. You don't want me to be. I'm not a fan of all you shades you gray type. You could really be our guy if you just like the things I like. Oh, it would be so nice if you just join or try. You could really be our guy if you only knew the way. Could like the things I like if you'd hear what I have to say. Won't you please agree with me? Won't you please just agree with me? Won't you please agree with me? Won't you please just agree with me? Oh, it would be so nice if you like the things I like. Like such a real cool
die? Why don't you like the things I like? Just like the things I like. Why don't you like the things I like? Why don't you like the things I like?